And happening right now, the Green Bay Area Public School Board is meeting where we expect to learn more about an investigation into the district superintendent, Claude Tiller Jr.
Action 2 News first broke the news about an interview that Tiller gave recently to a public radio show in Atlanta while on a work recruitment trip. The Board of Education named Tiller superintendent in July of 2023. In a First Alert update, Brittany Schmidt tells us what she uncovered this afternoon.
On social media, Claude Tiller Jr. posted last week from Atlanta, Georgia, visiting for a district recruitment trip. The Green Bay Area Public School Board named Tiller, who has a doctorate in education, superintendent last summer after an extensive search. According to Tiller's social media, he participated in an interview with a nationally syndicated talk show called Relationship Talk with Dr. Adrian. The show was advertised as a discussion about navigating educational leadership, insights from the first black superintendent of Green Bay Public Schools. What he said on that show on February 6th is now under review. The Board of Education released a statement to us saying they are aware of the interview and, quote, currently working through some of the issues raised that warrant further review and discussion. Because this is in part a personnel issue, we are not able to make any additional comments at this time, end quote. We tried to find the interview, but it appears to be taken down. We asked the district for a recording of the video. Our request has been forwarded to an attorney they are working with. In an email to Action 2 News this morning, he says he will, quote, provide a comprehensive response to you shortly, end quote. Beyond that response, we have not received anything more. In Green Bay, Brittany Schmidt, Action 2 News.
We do know the board had 2 private meetings today already on the schedule. Happening right now is that public meeting. If the board discusses the investigation, we'll be the first to alert you with any new details as they happen.